Okay, so let's start. One of the things I want to address today is, well, the first thing is when you are working on your project and you run into any issue, maybe you are trying to configure something and it is not coming out as you expect, don't allow yourself to be discouraged because troubleshooting is a big part of working as a cloud engineer. There is a whole project. I have worked on some projects before where all I was doing on that project is troubleshooting. If there is an issue, we have to log in and try to look for where the issue is. So when you guys are working on your project and you run into any issue, that is an opportunity to learn. That is actually what I expect. Make as many mistakes as you can make now and learn from it. That is what is expected. So don't work on your project, and when you run into any issue, you stop working on it because you feel that you should have a smooth experience from beginning to end. That is not how it works. How you will learn is those mistakes you are making and how you are able to resolve them. And from my experience, I'll just tell you guys this way. Think about it. If you are working on your project now, and you run into any issue and you stop, you are actually hurting the progress you've made, the effort you've put in. And if you, let's say you stop for a week or however long you choose to stop, the next time you go back to work on it, it's like you are starting from the beginning. So don't get into a habit of stopping and starting. If you run into any issue, that is why we have the Slack channel. Try to ask questions in there. Try to ask me, and also try to think about what you have done to configure your project and see where you may have run into that issue. That is a big part of learning. And I always look at it this way. And I think you guys should also, it's something you guys should also consider. The price you will pay for going through all this issue of troubleshooting your project, trying to learn cloud computing and trying to get a job is less than the price you will pay if you don't learn it. I don't know everyone's situation, but for me, when I was starting out, when I was learning, I was so desperate to change my situation because I was living check to check and all this stuff. So one time I actually did the same thing where I worked on a project in the beginning and I got stuck and I stopped, and I actually didn't do cloud computing for months. And let's say 8 months after that, I was still complaining about the same thing I was complaining about, which was how much I was making or whatever job I was doing at the time. So think about it that way. If you are trying to change the current situation now, that situation is not going to change unless you do something about it. And what I mean is, let's say you are trying to change your job and you are trying to transition into cloud computing. That job is not going to change itself unless you push through all the challenges you are facing now and get the projects done. So that's why I want to say, don't get discouraged. Troubleshooting and running into issues is part of your day-to-day as a cloud engineer. Even when you start working, you will still run into the same issues. I think, Ahmed, did you have your hand raised?
Yes, yeah. I have a question regarding Terraform real quick.
Okay.
I noticed I did I think the first part of the end-to-end Terraform application, but I noticed if I want to just let's say I don't want to deploy a database, I just want like a VPC and an ad gateway and all those network stuff. I was wondering, is there a way we can exclude some of the TF files module that we don't need and deploy the specific modules that we need? Let's say we need like a VPC and maybe just let me check my screen real quick. Let's say we need VPC, we need the security group, we don't need the RDSTF, we don't need the I don't think that let's say we don't need the RDS, we just need all the other modules but RDS, just a specific resource. How do we run a particular resource without having to do everything at once, if that makes sense?
It depends how your project is structured. Are you talking about using Terraform module, or are you talking about having all your application, all your Terraform script in one root directory? Which one are you referring to?
I think Terraform module.
Terraform module, then just in Terraform module, if you don't want to create a particular resource, then don't call that resource in your project. So it's much easier in Terraform module as opposed to if you have all your projects in the same root directory. So this is a project that I recently worked on that is a Terraform module. You can see here, these are my modules. I have all my VPC, NAT gateways, and all those resources, right? And in this folder, this is the project where I have the main.tf, right? This is where I'm calling all the other resources. So you can see here, I'm calling the VPC, NAT Gateway, Security Groups, RDS. So if you don't want to call all the other modules, all you have to do is remove them from your project. So let's say in this project, I want to only call my VPC and the NAT Gateway. So I'm just going to remove this from my project. And that is only going to call the VPC and the NAT Gateway.
Okay.
So when you are completing your project in Terraform module, if you don't want to call all the other modules that are here, this is how you do it. Just don't add them to your project.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay. All right. So that's the first thing you have to think about. You guys, I want you guys to look up an app that most companies use. Almost every company has it. And if they don't have this app, they probably have another app. But this specific app is called PagerDuty. You guys look it up and I'll send you guys the information on Slack. This app is made for getting alerts. So when I was working on the project where I was troubleshooting, anytime there's an issue, you will get an alert on that app. And that's when you know to log in and go and troubleshoot whatever issue is going on. So troubleshooting is going to be part of your day-to-day as a cloud engineer. You're not going to escape that. Whether you are running into issues now, it doesn't mean when you feel that you are a professional cloud engineer that you will still not have issue when you are working in a professional environment. You'll still run into issues. That is why it's good to have a community of people that you can run your error by. And sometimes when you guys, or some of you guys that I've worked with this week, you can see that some of the errors you are having is maybe you misspelled something or the way you named something is not matching. For example, in one person's file, your environment variable, then what the name you gave it, and when you are calling that environment variable, the other name did not match. So it's just sometimes the issue you are having may be as little as that, where it might just be a typo somewhere that you need an extra set of eye to help you catch. So don't be discouraged. That's all I have to say. Just don't be discouraged. There's nothing hard about cloud computing that you can't learn. Don't be discouraged. Shall I go ahead?
Oh, sorry. I don't know if you can hear me now.
Yes, I can hear you better.
Yeah, I think I heard you. You just said what I wanted to say. I just wanted to encourage others because, like you said, troubleshooting is just a skill. You can't run away from, and that's one of the reasons why we are here. And over the years, I've decided. I've developed ways of going around it. Try to use Google as much as you can Google. Use the Stack Overflow. You use all the AI tools. Reach out to your colleagues when you don't know something. A lot of people struggle with the same thing. And when it comes to Terraform, most of my mistakes have always been typographical error.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things about coding. It doesn't. If you use uppercase where you should use lowercase, it's not going to run. And over time, you just you become better at it. It's not something that is out of this world. And when you start working in the real world, you realize you're not just the only one struggling with that thing. There's a whole lot of people. And what I've seen is in the IT world now, especially when you find yourself in a place where there's good teamwork, nobody wants to shame you. You realize everybody's eager to teach you one thing or the other, even if you're just starting your career. So troubleshooting is just something you have to get better at, and it's not a big deal. Sometimes it takes days to fix it. So it's not a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you, Shola. Yeah, so Shola is working in the field. I'm telling you, it's really not. I know in the beginning when you are starting out and you are trying to learn it, you feel like you should know as much as you should know. And that is a good mindset to have, but don't be discouraged about running into any error. It is actually an opportunity to learn. So the next thing I want to talk about is someone asked me, should you lie on your resume? Meaning that should you add a bunch of skills on your resume that you don't know how to do because maybe someone told you that's what you should put on your resume. And my short answer to that would be no. The reason why you don't want to add skills on your resume that you don't have or things you haven't worked on before is one, for example, let's say you add Ansible on your resume as a skill you have, but you actually don't have that skill. What a good interviewer would do is they will look on your resume and they will pick things out of your resume to ask you a question. So if they happen to pick Ansible and they ask you a question and you are unable to answer it, then you will hurt your chance of getting the job. Because if I did an interview recently, and I will send you guys the link to that interview, you guys can actually listen to it. One of the things the guy told me is, I'm not someone that will ask you a bunch of questions about what is EC2, what is S3. What I would do is I'll go on your resume. This is exactly what he told me, and you guys will hear it on the interview. He said, I would look at your resume and I will pick things on your resume to ask you a question. If you are able to answer the questions, what he said that what he's find out that if you've done something, then you should be able to explain it. And if you've listed a skill on your resume as something you can do or you've done before, then you should be able to talk about it. And if you can't talk about it, it means you either haven't done it, master it, or you are lying about it. So which I agree with that, which is why I said when you are building your resume, you don't have to lie. There are a set of skills that cloud engineers need to know, right? You just need to do a project on those skills. For example, what I said is at the base level, some of the skills you should have is on AWS, right? If that's the cloud provider you are going for, Terraform, Linux, Ansible, Git, Docker, Kubernetes, and those are the base ones that I can think of now, right? You just need to do a project just like we are doing on those tools. And by you completing the project from beginning to end, you will be able to talk about it. And if you are explaining it to someone, you'll be able to explain it. So that is what you should focus on when you are building your resume. Add skills for the projects you've completed that you can talk about. And that will give you a good chance of getting the job and doing well during your interview. Another reason why you shouldn't have a skill you don't have to your resume is even if you make it through the interview and somehow you memorize all the necessary things to say about that skill and you make it through the interview. Now you have created an expectations for them that you are the go-to person for that skill set. So let's say you've managed to convince them that you are an Ansible expert. When you start on day one, they are going to be relying on you to do all the Ansible work. So even if you make it past the interview stage, it will even be much difficult once you start working, because if they have that expectations for you that you know how to work in Ansible, that is what they will expect you to do once you start. Cloud, you have to go in with some base knowledge. It is really not a field where you can wing it and you can learn as you go. Certainly, you can learn some other skills as you go, but the foundational stuff of what you need to know, you need to come in with those skill sets from the get-go. So you don't have to be an Ansible expert, but you need to know some basics about Ansible coming in. For example, how to write a playbook, how to create your inventory files and things like that. So that's what I want to say. Don't lie on your resume and only add skills to your resume that you have worked on before and projects you've completed. So that's what I would say about that. Okay. Another thing I want to say is I have reviewed all your tasks in review and I've moved them to done. So if you add your tasks in review, you'll see that I've moved them to done. There's only one person that I moved back in progress because the acceptance criteria was not in it. So if you don't find your ticket in done, most likely I've moved it back to in review so that you can provide the acceptance criteria for it. And also on the Excel sheet, I have given everyone that I've moved the assignment to done credit for the tasks they've completed. So please check here and make sure that everything is up to date in terms of your progress. Do you guys have any questions? All right. One thing I want to cover today is another Git topic that you will see on a day-to-day at work. You guys know in our project, for the Terraform project, we are using Git, where that is where we are storing our Terraform scripts. And once you create your Git repository, you have branch in there. So if you are looking in your account now, last week, we created 2 branch for the project we are working on, where I created dev branch and prod branch. But when you are watching the playback of this video, even if in your repository you only have the main branch, that is fine. You will still be able to follow along. So at work, one thing I want you to keep in mind is Your company will have repository where they've stored all the scripts for Terraform, and all the codes for the application they are working on. So in this case, I'll just say all the scripts for the Terraform, because I think when I say code, you guys get scared. I feel like as a cloud engineer, more of what we do is we script things. We don't write the application code, but we script things. So when I say code, I mean script. So your company will have a repository where they have stored all the scripts for the projects they are working on, right? And one thing I want you guys to know is that for each repository, there will be branch. So here, this is where you will see all the branch in GitHub, right? And the branch is just whatever name your company has chosen to call them. In this repository that I called Nest App, I have 2 branches, dev and prod. But if you are working in yours, maybe you haven't created different branch, you only have main, that is fine. What I want you to understand is look up something that is called Git branching. So Git branching is very simple to understand. It is something like this. How do I make this bigger? Okay. So Git branching is something simple like this, right? So this master represents the main branch that your company has stored their code. So what happens is when they've assigned you a task, for example, let's say they want you to change something on the Terraform code, right? So what you would do is first you will clone the repository on your computer. After you've cloned the repository on your computer, the next thing you are going to do is you won't make your change on that master branch. So for example, let's say this dev branch, they want me to change something in it. The first thing I'm going to do is clone it on my computer. So in this image, think of this master as the dev. The name doesn't really matter. So once you've cloned it on your computer, you have to make changes on it, right? But you are not going to make changes on the master branch you cloned on your computer. What you have to do is you have to create your own branch. That is why you are seeing this branching off here, right? You create your own branch. You pretty much create your own branch from the master branch, and it goes here. It's just parallel. Think of it, it is parallel to this master branch. Just like someone else can clone this master branch and they will work on their work here. So everything you are doing is parallel to this branch. So once you clone it, you'll create your own branch, then you will make your changes on the branch. Once you make your changes, you commit the changes into your GitHub repository and you create what is called a pull request. Once you create the pull request, someone on your team will review it. If everything looks good and the work you've completed it the way they want, then they will merge it back into the master. So what that means is, let's say you are trying to make a change, but that change hasn't been tested. Sometimes you may test the change and you may find out an error. There's an error in it, right? But so that we don't mess up the branch that we already know works, that is why we will create a separate branch for you to make your changes, test it, and if everything works, then we will merge it to the master branch. So that's how it works. And when you are making your change here, someone else may have cloned this repository on their computer, create a branch here, and make their changes too. So the main thing I want to cover today is you should understand that would be one of your day-to-day workflow. You would be creating pull requests every day. So when a task is assigned to you, don't make the change on the branch you cloned. Create your own branch, make the change on your own branch, then create a pull request to match the change to your master branch. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any question?
Hi, Aziz.
Hello.
Hi, thank you very much for that knowledge. But the point here is, I understand the concept with creating a new branch, the need for that concept. But do you have a video here that shows us how to do that?
Yes, I'll work on that next.
Oh, okay.
I'll walk you through that next.
All right. Thank you very
Good
much.
question.
I think there's a video on YouTube.
Yes, there's also a video on YouTube, but for today's class, we'll also do a demo on it. So,
all right, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So let's say in this Terraform project, in the dev branch, I have an auto-scaling group. And in this auto-scaling group file, they want me to change the auto-scaling group size, the max size, and the minimum size from 2 to 4 and from 1 to 2, right? So this is just a random request, right? So if you don't know what this means, don't worry about it. The main thing I'm trying to explain is in this file, they want me to change this number to 4 and this number to 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the repository. Once you are in the repository, you are going to clone the repository on your computer. To clone it, I'm going to select code and I'm going to copy the SSH address here by clicking this box because I've set up my SSH to clone this repository. And in the last class, we covered how to set up your SSH key in GitHub to clone your repository. So this class is a continuation of the last demo we did. So once you copy the address of that repository, open your terminal and browse to whatever directory you want to clone the repository on your computer. Since I already have this repository on my desktop, I'm going to clone it in a different directory, which is this directory that I'm currently in is my home directory. I'll clone it in here. So I'll type git clone and paste that address there and press enter. And I've successfully cloned that repository on my computer. If I go in my home directory, I have a lot of stuff in my home directory now. So if I type ls, it should be somewhere in here. It is right here. Also to show you, remember I said a home directory on your computer, if you are working on a Windows computer, it will be in your C drive, users, whatever your name is set on the folder. And once you select it, this is your home directory. So once I come in here, I should see that repository I just cloned. It is right here. So that is that. That's the first thing you have to do, clone the repository on your computer. Please also understand that when I cloned this repository, I was in the dev branch. That is where the request was asked to make the change. So I cloned the dev branch and I'm trying to make the change in the code in the dev branch. Once you've cloned the repository on your computer, you can see it here. The next thing I'm going to do is cd into that repository. So I'll type cd and the name of the repository. It is called next. When you are typing something in Linux or in PowerShell, when you type part of the name, if you press the tab key, if that name is in that directory, it would auto-complete it for you. So this is how you guys can move fast when you are trying to type a name of a directory you are trying to change into. So instead of typing this full name, just type NEST. If that directory is in there and you press the tab key, it will auto-complete it for you. So I'm going to cd into it and press enter. So now I am in that repository I cloned on my computer. So here, the first thing you have to do is, it's always good to get in a habit of typing git branch so you are sure which branch you are on. So if you type git branch, right, it will tell you what branch you are on. And this is the branch I want to make the change on, the dev branch. Once you type git branch, you'll be able to know what branch you are in, and I'm in the dev branch. The next thing you should do is also get in a habit of typing git pull. Sometimes you may have cloned the repository on your computer, right? But remember that I said that other people may also be cloning the same repository and pushing their work into the master when they have created their own pull request and it has been approved. So let's say 30 minutes, an hour, a day has passed from when clone the repository. It is a good habit to type git pull. And what that would do is if someone has pushed an update into the master that you cloned on your computer, in this case, I mean the dev branch. If someone has pushed an update into that dev branch, you'll be able to pull their update into your local repository. You can see after I type git pull, it said that my branch is up to date. So now, once you are sure that your branch is up to date, what we are going to do is create our own branch from this dev branch. And that branch is what you will make your changes on. To create your own branch from this dev branch, you are going to type git checkout. Once you type git checkout, then you add a space and you add -b. That B stands for branch. Then add another space. Then you give your branch a name. And for the branch name, I'm just going to type update autoscaling group. I'll type ASG for autoscaling group. So remember, the command is git checkout branch -b for branch, and you type the name of the branch. So once you type that, press enter, and you can see it has created the new branch and switched to that branch. So now if you type git branch again, you can see now I have two local branch, and the branch that I'm currently on is my update autoscaling group. Whether you are working in Windows computer or Mac, once you are in the repository you cloned on your computer and you have created your branch, this is what I always do from here. So in PowerShell, to open this folder with this branch in Visual Studio Code, you are going to type code space dot. So this works on Mac and this also works on Windows PowerShell. So you type, make sure you are in the folder you want to open in Visual Studio Code. You can see this is the folder I want to open in Visual Studio Code. And the current branch I am on is the branch I created. So whether you are working on a Windows computer, and in Windows, I use PowerShell. I don't think it works in the regular command prompt in Windows. You have to use PowerShell. And on your Mac computer, the same command works. So type code space dot and press enter. There you go. And you can see it has opened that folder in Visual Studio Code. You can see the branch I am on is update ASG, and these are all the application code. So I was asked to update some values in the autoscaling group file, and this is the autoscaling group file. Now that you are on your branch, you can make your changes here. So in the autoscaling group file, I'm going to open it. Then you make your changes where they've asked you to make your change. So here they asked me to change this to 4 and change this to 2. Once you've made your change, you are going to save your file. Then once you've saved it, you will get the source control update that is telling you that you've made a change here. So under source control in Visual Studio Code, any file you see in here, if you select it, it would split the screen for you. On the left side where you have the red, it is showing you what the value was before. And on the right side, it is showing you what you change it to. So here, it is telling you that in this file, this section of this file has been updated. And previously it was 2, you change it to 4. And previously it was 1, you change it to 2. Before I push my update to the GitHub repository, I always check my source control changes to make sure that the changes are correct. So once you review it here, you can now push your update to your GitHub repository. So to push our update to our GitHub repository, in Visual Studio Code here, I'm just going to type a commit message. The commit message can be anything, and it is a short description of what you did. So here, I'm going to type updated ASG file. Once I type my description, I'm going to click commit. And once I commit that change, I'm going to click publish branch, or sometimes you will see sync changes here to push it to your GitHub repository. And there I've pushed that update to my GitHub repository. Once you've pushed it, now you are going to go into your GitHub account. So in the GitHub account here, I'm going to click refresh. And any update you push into your GitHub account, when you go into the repository, it would show you a preview here telling you you've pushed a latest commit that you should create a pull request for it. I like this because now here I can just create a pull request. But in case you don't see this, once you push any change into your GitHub repository, to create a pull request, you will see pull request up here. So select pull request here. So whether you select this or this, it will take you into the same thing. Here, I'm going to click new pull request. So on this page, what you want to do is you can see, pay attention to this arrow, and it is always the same way on every, what's the word I'm looking for? So you know how we have Bitbucket, GitHub, and what's the other one? GitLab, right? It doesn't matter which service you are using, it is the same way. So what this is saying is that here we are going to select the branch that I made my changes on, right? So what this is saying is that I want to take the changes in this branch, right? And I want to merge it into this branch. So that's why you see this arrow is pointing from this to this. So that's how you should always read it. And it is the same on all those services. Remember, you want to take the changes you made in your branch, right? Which is this arrow, and you are pointing it to whatever branch you want to merge it to. In this case, I want to merge it into the dev branch. So here I'll select dev. So that's how that works. And at your company, they will have additional things there where you have to type a brief description of what you did. But since we are working in our own account, we don't have those things set up. But the main thing you have to do is just make sure you are merging into the right branch. Then once you select that, it will also show you the changes here. So we can see these are the changes that was made. And once you review everything, you just click create pull request, right? Then here, I'm going to click create pull request. Okay, so I've created that pull request. Then once you create the pull request, the email is going to be sent to people on your team that has authorization to approve it. You see here, we have reviewers. The reviewers that has been assigned to approve pull request on your team, their name will show up here. And they will also receive an email when you create a pull request. They will review it. In case you are one of the reviewers that is assigned to review pull request, when you get an email to review a pull request, remember, if you come into the repository and you select pull request, you will see all the pull requests that are under that repository. You see, I've left that other page. So let's say I come into my repository here and I select pull request. You will see all the pull requests that are under that repository. This is the one I just created. If this is the pull request you are asked to review, select it, right? Then you can see the commit that was made, and you'll see the name of the person that made the commit. What is always helpful is the files changed. So here, if you select this, you'll be able to see what the file looked like before and what it was changed to. You can see here in the red, this is what it looks like before, and this is what they are changing it to. So I always start from the files change, and that just helps me review it faster. Sometimes they may change multiple files. What I should have done is change multiple files. If multiple files was changed, you will see all those files here, and it will be the same thing here. It will tell you what it was before and what it was changed to. And in case you have multiple files, to help you sort through those files as you are reviewing them, you can click this box to say view, and that will just close it for you. So that way, you know you have viewed that file. All it is doing is dropping this. So if you click this arrow, you can still see it, or you can uncheck this and it will show up again. So this is for when you are reviewing a pull request. So under conversations, if you have a comment you want to send to the person, change this, this is not right, or whatever your comment is, you can add your comment under conversations, right? Let's say you've reviewed it and everything works, or the manager on your team has reviewed it and everything works. They will approve it. Then once they approve it, you will get this green box that is allowing you to merge the pull request. The first time you create the pull request, this will not be green. In our account, we don't have all those branch rules set now to prevent from merging to main. That's why this is automatically green. But at your company, you won't be able to merge until someone approves it. So let's say someone has approved it, then this turns to green. To merge it, you click merge pull request, and all you have to do is click confirm merge. And once you merge it, now it has merged the changes from your branch into the main. So if we go back into that repository, remember we are in the dev branch, and if we go into that auto scaling group file, scroll down here, you can see the change has been merged into that branch. This is one of the day-to-day things you will be doing. And I'm saying this, remember this, even if your company don't have a policy of creating pull requests, don't ever make change on the main branch. Anytime they ask you to make a change in a file in your repository, clone that repository on your computer, create your own branch, make your changes on that branch. And the reason why you should do that is because if you run into any issues while you are trying to make the change, you don't want to mess up the code that you guys already have in that branch that you know that code works. You don't want to mess it up. So it is a perfect habit to always create your own branch. Even if your company don't have a policy of creating branch, I'm telling you to always make your own change on your own branch and merge it to the main branch. So this is how it works. Does anyone have any question?
Yeah, I do. So what happened to the branch you created for yourself before merging? Is it going to be deleted by the company, or it's going to be there?
Yes, most likely. Let me check in our project, right? In our project, the branch is there, so we can delete it, right? You can delete the branch once you are done with it. But at your company, as part of their GitHub repository settings, when you merge it, there's also an option there to delete that branch after you merge it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I believe if you want to, it's been a while since I deleted a branch manually, but I believe if you want to delete it, if you come to branch here, you can see this branch here, and you can delete it by clicking this button here to delete. So if you want to delete it, you can delete it from here. But at your company, once you merge it, there will also be an option to it depends on how your company set up their repository. Some set it up to delete the branch after you've merged it, and some set it up to have the option to delete it. So that is what I want to cover on pull requests. Does anyone have any question?
I think I also wanted to add that even in our own personal project, we should probably get the habit of doing it like you just taught us, so that we don't just assume because it's our project we should be making changes in the main branch. We should be probably creating a separate branch and, fix the changes so that we get into that habit. I think that's a good one.
Exactly. Yeah. So in your project now, try to also work with pull requests. Even though it's your project, create pull requests, the changes you are pushing into your GitHub repository, review those pull requests and merge it into the main. So just to get in a habit of doing that, because this is day-to-day at work. This is one of those things that I would say don't ever forget. This is what you'll be doing on a day-to-day. For your projects, if you want to restrict your branch so that anytime you push a change, it forces you to create a pull request for it, I believe how you do it is you can come to that repository and you select settings, branches. Once you are on branches, it is better to add it from here. So I'll click add branch protection rule. Okay, this is where I want to be. So once you are here, branch name pattern, this is the name of the branch you want to add the rule set for. So remember, one of my branch is dev. So I'll type dev. So if in your repository, your branch is still named main, that is what you'll type here, is the exact name of that branch. Then here, these are some of the settings you can set on that branch to prevent pull requests. You can see here, it says require a pull request before merging. So we'll check that. And also here it says require approvals. So this is where someone would have to approve your pull request before you merge it. And here you can also see all the other things you can check here. So most likely when your company creates the rule on their branch, they will have majority of this checked, which will prevent you from just merging into the master. But for in your project, you can check this, which says require a pull request before merging and requires approval. So we're going to select this and click create, and it is asking for my password. So I've created that rule set on the branch dev. So let me go back to my local repository again. Remember, I've already cloned this repository on my computer. And if I type git branch, I'm on the branch, the last branch that I made my changes on. So remember I said people are always pushing updates into the master branch as you are working on it. And we've pushed an update into dev. So now dev is the latest update, right? So what you have to do is first, before I create the new branch where I'm going to make the next change on, I'm going to go back to my dev branch. To go back to your dev branch, you type git checkout and the name of the branch you want to switch to. So since here the branch name is dev, I'm going to type dev. One thing I want to point out is remember the difference between this git checkout and this git checkout. So here when we have git checkout -b and the name of the branch, that is if you are creating a new branch, then you specify -b. But if you already have the branch and you are trying to switch to it, you don't have to specify the -b. So remember that this is when you are creating a new branch. This is when you are trying to switch to an existing branch. So once you type your command, press enter. You see, I've switched to the dev branch. To see that you are in the dev branch, you can either open it in Visual Studio Code. So if you type code dot, you can see now I'm in the dev branch. I'll just close this. You can see I'm in the dev branch. And if I go back to the terminal, if you also type git branch, you can see I'm on the dev branch. Remember, once you are on the dev branch, one of the things you should always type before you create your branch is, remember I told you you have to do git pull, or you can also type git status. Git status just lets you know that whether your branch is up to date, right? And yeah, your working tree is up to date, but then remember we push an update to this dev branch. So here you have to type git pull to pull that changes to your local. So if you type git pull, you can see I made changes to the autoscaling group file and it has pulled that change to my local repository. So now that your dev branch is up to date, because what happens is, let's say someone push an update to this dev branch and you don't run git pull. When you create another branch from this dev branch, you will be creating that branch from whatever state this dev branch was in when you created that branch. Does that make sense? Mainly, anytime before you create another branch, always type git pull. And when you type git pull, you want to see already up to date before you create a new branch. So now that I've pulled it, I'm going to create a new branch. I'm going to type git checkout. Remember, I'm creating a new branch, so I'm going to type -b and the name of the branch. I'm going to type update another. So I'll just type the name of the branch. So remember, it's git checkout -b and the name of the branch. Press enter. So I've created that branch. To open this folder in Visual Studio Code, we are going to type code space dot and press enter. And you can see I've opened it in Visual Studio Code, and you can see what branch I'm in. Now, in this branch, let me change something in this branch. So I'm going to make another changes on the auto scaling group because that is the easiest one. So here I'm just going to change this value from 4 to 9, and I'll change this to 5. Then I'm going to save it. Once you save it, under source control, you can review it here. So if you scroll down, you can see the file was previously 4 and 2. We change it to 9 and 5. Then let's push our update to our GitHub repository. I'm just going to type updated ASG file. Once you type your commit message, click commit. And once you commit your changes, click publish to branch. Then I've pushed it into the GitHub repository. I'm going to go into my GitHub account. So here, when you come to that repository, you can see anytime you push a commit into that repository, it will show you this preview, and you can just create a pull request from here. Or you can click create pull request. If this is showing for you, remember, if you click pull request here and click this, it will take you to the same place. So I'll just click compare and pull request. This is the name it is going to give the pull request. So once you've given it a name, it always wants to start with whatever you typed in your commit, but you can always change it. And here you can type your description of data ASG file. Obviously your description will be much descriptive than this, but for example, you type the name, description, and another thing you want to pay attention to is, and I almost forgot, is here. Make sure you are selecting the branch you made the changes on, right? And it is pointing to the branch you want to merge to. In this case, it is dev. So make sure you've checked here and you are merging into the right branch. Once you have added your name, description, click create pull request. And now you see what I was talking about. Because I've set a rule on that branch, dev, which is exactly how it will be at your company. Your company would have set some rules on the branch that prevent you from merging any change into it without those changes being approved. So now you can see that the option to merge it here is grayed out, and it is saying it requires at least one approval before you can merge it. So someone on your team will get an email, they will approve it. If you are working on your project and you have to approve it, so let's say if I created the pull request, if I'm also allowed to approve it, I'll go to pull request, select the pull request here, and here, let's go to file change. And once you are on files change, I believe here, if you select this drop down, well, because I created the pull request, I can't approve it. But the gist of it is, this is how it would be at your company. Since I created the pull request, I can approve my own work. So that is why I'm running into this issue. The main thing here is when you guys are working on your projects and you are getting into a habit of creating pull requests, don't set a rule on your branch because you can't approve your own work. The main thing I want to show you on the pull request is when you create a pull request at work, this is what it will look like. Once you create your pull request, it will be blocked, and whoever the reviewers on your team are, they will show up here. One of them will approve it. Then once they have approved it, that's when you'll be able to merge your pull request. Then this changed to green, which was what it looks like previously when I merged the pull request before I created the rule on the branch. So when you are working on your project, don't create a rule on the branch because you can't approve your own work. That is the issue I'm having here. That's why I can't approve it. But when you are approving someone's work, right here, this is where you say it. Once you review it and everything is fine, you come here, check the approve button and click submit. Then the person will be able to come into that pull request here and they will be able to match their pull request. Do you guys have any questions? The last week's video is on YouTube. If you look in your playlist, it's the last video in the playlist. Do you guys have any questions? Okay, so that is the main thing I wanted to show you guys today. If you guys don't have any question, then I will wait around for anyone that wants to speak to me or needs help troubleshooting whatever issue they are facing on their project.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
When you do a pull request with regards to best standards, the reviewer, is it the responsibility of the person to review and merge, or just review and then you that created, you're the one that merge?
When you create a pull request, the reviewer will review it and approve. When the reviewer approves it, you will get an email, then you can merge your own changes. So for best practice, you should merge your own changes and finish your work. So you making the changes and creating the pull request is part of your work, but you are not done with that task. Because here, let's say it is a Terraform code, you have to merge the Terraform code. And once you merge the Terraform code, then whatever method your company is using to apply, then you have to apply that changes into your AWS environment. So when you create the pull request, your work is not done until your work is approved, you merge it, and you apply the Terraform code. In this case, we are working on Terraform. Yes, so best practice, it is not the reviewer's responsibility to merge for you. Unless maybe, let's say, when you created the pull request, you are out of the office before it got approved, then someone else will merge it and complete the work for you.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, I'll wait after class. Do you guys have any other questions? Okay, well,
Hi, Aziz.
Hello.
I see that there are groups here. I don't know if we need to be in any sort of group kind of to work. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So with the group, I think I'm going to restructure the group, because I see that it's so hard to maintain the group because people pop in and out whenever they want. And there's also some people that are consistent. So that's when it is hard to kind of like, that's where I'm having the challenge with the group. But I want to reshuffle the group, and I would say it now. For those of you that are ahead, I'm going to ask you guys to be a good resource to those that are behind you. So what I would do is, for those that are ahead and I've worked with them, I know they understand all the projects and they have good knowledge on the projects, I would reshuffle the group and add everyone to be kind of like a lead in each of those groups. So you'll be a resource to rely on. So look at it this way. When you start working this way, where people on your team can come to you and ask questions about projects you are working on, think of it as you are preparing yourself to work in a role at your company where you can be a lead. As you guys know, there are different roles at the companies. There's like just a regular team engineer, there's a lead, there's a manager. So when you are a lead, you are someone that people will be relying on. They will come to you, ask questions. So if it's something you are interested in and you want to use that to challenge yourself, I'll reshuffle the group and you can kind of be a resource for the members to ask questions if they are stuck on anything. But certainly I am the first responsibility. If you have any question, ask me as well. And I'll try my best to help you. So for the group, I will restructure the group and I will add you to the group. But for completing the project, not being in a group shouldn't hinder you from completing the project. So if you are running into any issue, reach out to me.
Okay. How often do you review the project after they are completed, so that I know what time to complete the project, so that you'll be close to the time you're reviewing?
So I reviewed all the projects this morning. I try to review them during the week, but sometimes my schedule is busy. So what I'll do is I review them every Saturday morning before our meeting. So I reviewed all this morning and I approve it. So I'll say you can complete your project, add your ticket in review, and every Saturday morning or before Saturday. Sometimes I do it on Friday, Thursday. It just depends. But certainly Saturday morning, I'll review it and move it to done.
Okay. The reason I asked is because if I keep them running on AWS, it's going to be a lot of cost on my side. So that's what I'm asking.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So what I'll say is what everyone is doing is when you complete your assignment, let me show you someone's. I'll check. So what everyone is doing is on the Word document that I'm giving you, I've listed some acceptance criteria in there. So those are the things you have to submit for me to review your work and mark that assignment as completed for you. So you can see here in the assignment, Kofi submitted, he added the acceptance criteria that I asked for. So in this assignment, I asked him to provide a screenshot of his EC2 instance, his servers running, a screenshot of the website fully deployed that is showing that it is encrypted, and whatever else I was asking for here, right? So that is what you would provide here in addition to your domain name. So let's say I don't get to review it fast, you can delete all your resources. Give me like an hour. Well, not an hour. Give me like 30 minutes.
Okay.
If I don't respond, then remove all your resources. I can still review the screenshot you've provided to mark the assignment as completed for you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem, sir. Okay. Does anyone else have any question?
Yes, as a school question. I remember, so as regards our, let's say, job application, are we gonna say we work elsewhere concerning the project we've done, or we just say it's like a self-paced project? How are we gonna tailor the resume and to that regard?
Excuse me. What was your question again? Sorry, I kind of went in and out.
Okay, so the question is, so considering all the project that we're doing and
Mhm.
indicate our knowledge in AWS, well, are we gonna say we've done this on our own or we work with a company with this project? You know, like how is it gonna be tailored in a resume fashion?
That's one question I always struggle with to answer. And I think I need to reach out to some recruiters and get what the right answer would be. Because I am a big fan of not lying on your resume. But those skills, those projects you've worked on, I also want you to include them on your resume in the best chance that gives you credit for it. So I think what I would say is, for me, since I have a business where I am hosting some applications in the cloud, for those that are serious, I would pretty much make sure you can work with me kind of like I guess you can look at it like as an intern. You can work with me where I pretty much test your knowledge in this area, and I can give you a reference when it comes to your ability to work with those tools. At my company, I've seen them hire tons of people that went through bootcamp, that recently just graduated from bootcamps. And to also think about college students, they haven't worked in the professional field before, so they have to have a way of including that on their resume. But I'll say right now, I don't necessarily know the best way to do it. I don't know whether you should put it there as a project or if there's a way you can list it on your resume that just makes it attractive. Let me do some research on that and I'll get back to you. The projects we are working on is a good solid foundation for majority of the skills that you will need to work as a cloud engineer. That I can tell you. But what I'm also struggling with is, like you said, since you don't have that professional experience, what's the best way to add it to your resume? That I will find an answer for you.
Thank you.
I don't mind giving reference, but in order for me to give you reference, I want to make sure that you know exactly what you are doing. And there will be an assignment. You guys are doing it now anyway. So in the end, I'll probably give you a different application where I would have some requirements and you would have to deploy it from beginning to end. And when we meet, you would also have to be able to explain everything. Because one of the main things I want to say is, and if you guys notice, I don't try to like impress you guys by saying that I've taught this many people and this is what they are doing, that's what they are making. But I can guarantee you that everyone I've taught that have gotten a job, they've kept their job. And that's one of the goals that I shoot for. I don't just want you to get a job and you are stressed out on your first day of work, or a week later, you don't know what you are doing. Right? I want you to get your job and not only get your job, but keep your job. Everyone I've taught that got a job, I've been working for 2-3 years now. They've bought houses. Yeah, I know one particular guy, he bought 2 houses. One moved from Maryland to Texas, is doing very well. And he's actually someone that just recently came from Nigeria at the time when I taught him, and he's doing very well now. He's actually one of the person I'm proud of. And I'm saying those success story is based on each individual, because what you put in it is what you get. But certainly when I'm teaching you guys, that's why I'm putting this much effort into making sure you guys understand what you are doing. So my goal is that not only you get your job, but also keep your job. So I don't mind giving you reference, but in order for me to give you a reference, you will have to prove to me that you know what you are doing. So for the resume part, that's what I can say about that. I certainly don't mind giving you reference, but don't take shortcuts, or if you don't understand the material 100%, or you have skipped through the project and you want me to give you a reference, I won't do that.
Yeah, I personally, I don't like deceiving myself because as I'm speaking to you, I've written my practitioner and I'm preparing for my developer exam. I think it's I think ending of next month, October. This is just to make sure I understand everything ins and outs. Maybe not as much as perfect, but close to knowing what exactly I'm doing.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. So when the time comes, when you guys are ready to build your resume and you've proven that you are ready to start applying, certainly I will do whatever I can do to help you out.
All right, thank you. I'll reach out then.
Okay, no problem. All right. Does anyone else have any question? Okay. Well, that would be it. Yes, sir.
Sorry for cutting you.
No, you're okay.
Yeah, I was listening to when you were talking about the group, like the demo you just did today. I think group projects will be the best way to like practice it. Don't you think so? I don't know, but I know we are of different pace. Some of us, some people have finished assignment 6 already. Some people are on 1. So I don't know how you want to be found in that direction so that we can practice this deployment, creating branches and everything.
Okay. So
just a suggestion.
Sure. Keep going at your own pace. So if you are not on Terraform project, the demo I showed today does not apply to you. So don't feel like you have to stop anything you are doing to jump to it. By the time you get to the Terraform project, you have your repository, then you can practice creating different branch like we covered in the last class, and you can also practice the workflow of creating a pull request. So when you get there, you'll be able to practice it. So don't feel like you have to break what you are working on now to get there. So that's what I would say. And you guys know I organize the videos in the playlist in the order that we are creating them. So when you go through the playlist, you'll still be able to follow in that order. So yes, don't break. If you are still on the deploying the projects manually, focus on that by the time you get to Terraform. I'll say the best time to practice this is after you have finished any of your Terraform project. Then you can practice this.
You think we can practice it as a group?
Excuse me?
You think we can practice it as a group?
As a group, you can practice it as a group. No, if your group is working on it and you just want to be part of that, you can practice it. But I'm saying, like, for you individually, if you are not on the Terraform project yet, don't stop what you are doing with your manual deployments to go practice this. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I know that we are doing different projects. I'm just like watching your demo, I feel that the best way to, be proactive about it is like those people in the same, maybe they have gotten to that stage, and you can give them the project to practice it. It's just a suggestion,
Okay.
Give them the practice to just do this one, create a branch.
Okay. You mean like have another assignment for creating a branch?
Maybe the one we are doing right now. So just let me think in that direction.
Okay. So this is just something I would just throw in as I think of certain things that I'm doing on a day-to-day at work throughout the week. I throw it in. The reason why I didn't really make it an assignment is because you have to give each other, you have to give me access to your GitHub account to see the pull request you have created and all that stuff. So that's why I just made it as it's kind of like something you should be aware of project. So that's why I didn't make it an assignment. You understand? Yeah, but it's just something to note. And I would think of it, maybe if there's a way I can make it into an assignment, I will. But when you create a pull request, as you see, I ran into the issue of approving it because I can't approve my own works. I have to give someone else access for them to be able to approve it. So that's why I didn't make this an assignment. It's just kind of one of those ad hoc demo, just something I want you to be aware of. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Does anyone else have a question? Okay. Well, thank you guys. Have a good weekend, and I will speak to you guys throughout the week, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
No problem. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sure.
Thank you. So for those that want to speak to me, I will still remain online, and you can yes. So I see how many people wants to speak to me. So you can raise your hand so we can kind of like pick in what order. Okay. Ahmed, Tisha, Shola. Okay. So it depends on in what order you guys want to go. Let me stop recording.